What's up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the numbers. These are my full card breakdown and predictions for UFC Vegas 31. We have Islam Makhachev going against Thiago Moises. I know this card is going to be very hard to top UFC 264, but as always, we have another fight card. Really no complaints from me. I think it's a solid card with a lot of solid spots from a betting opportunity as well, so looking forward to that. Before we get started, I do have some announcements to make. Shout out to Don for the Significant Strikes contest. Was able to get him his winnings there. I think he was like 2 away from the strike, so congrats to Don there. And then shout out to Retro 107. From the DK standpoint as well, he was able to take down the DK contest. Retro, if you can give me your PayPal or Cashapp, I will get you your winnings there. Congrats to both of you. I'll be doing more contests in the near future. I do want to point out that it's still a great time to sign up on the Patreon. I have 2 bets thus far. I'll have those on there already. With that, you get the advanced stats courtesy of Uncle Moises, the stat model, the betting article that comes out Friday, access to Discord, and lots more content. If you do want to support me more, or if you're looking for extra content, the Patreon's definitely the way to go. $10 a month, $2.50 per week. Really can't get much better than that. The link will be in the description for that. Have over 300 members. Thank you guys for that so much. And then also do want to point out that my live stream is on Friday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time as always, and then going live 1 hour prior to when the prelims start on Saturday. So go check that out as well. So that's about it. Before we get into it, if you guys can leave a like on the video, subscribe if you have not yet, would be much appreciated. You guys killed it on the likes last week. I think it was like a new record of likes, well over 700. So thank you guys so much for that. Really do appreciate the likes. They do really go a long way. So with all that out of the way, I say we get into it, and starting with the first fight of the night, where we have Rogerio Nascimento going against Alan Baudot. We have Nascimento, who is 28 years old, 6'2", 80-inch reach, 8-1, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Alan Baudot, 33 years old, 6'3", 79-inch reach, 8-2, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here, and we have Rogerio Nascimento as a pretty big favorite, sitting at minus 325, and we have Alan Baudot sitting at plus 250. So Nascimento, a pretty big favorite coming off of a loss to Chris Daukaus. No shame in that. Kind of didn't agree with his game plan, but he really couldn't get to his game plan. Chris Daukaus knocked him out very early, and then Alan Baudot got knocked out by Tom Aspinall. Aspinall was able to take him down and finish him shortly after. So, yeah, I definitely agree with the odds here. I think this should be, I think it's lined correctly. Nascimento, I do think, is the better fighter by a significant margin. You take a look at Alan Baudot, and it says he is 8-2, but I mean, if you go back and watch, I forget what the fight he was. I think it was against Stout, where he got a disqualification win. I'm not sure why it was turned over to a win, but you go back and watch that fight against Stout, and Alan Baudot gets beat. He gets dominated. He gets taken down multiple times. He gets his back taken. He gets choked out in that Stout fight. And for some reason, they changed that fight to a win. And I think it's very important to note, because Nascimento is going to want to do the same thing. He's going to want to get this fight down to the mat. He's going to want to get a submission here, and he's very good at doing that. So both guys have never won by decision. Both guys have never lost by decision. I do think this does finish inside the distance. But I'm really high on Nascimento. I know he did get knocked out in his last fight, but still very high on the guy. He's very young, 28 years old, training at a very good camp in American Top Team as well. And he's good. He's very good. I think his striking's coming along, but his bread and butter is that ground game, especially from like a heavyweight standpoint. Like, the guy's ground game is very good. He's able to advance position very, very well. Well. Has a lot of good chokes as well. Lots of submissions on his record, and I think he does take down Alan Baudot, who has showed pretty bad takedown defense and a very bad ground game as well. I think Nascimento gets this done in the first round. But yeah, if he messes around on the feet with Baudot, he could get knocked out. Baudot does have some power. But I do think Nascimento is going to fight smart. He's going to get this down to the mat. And if he does get it down to the mat, I do think the fight will be over shortly after. So give me Rogerio Nascimento to win by first round submission. All right, next we have Francisco Figueiredo, the bad Figgy, going against Malcolm Gordon. We have Figueiredo, who is 31 years old, 5'6", 69-inch reach, 12-3, and 1 and 3 and 1 and 1 in his last 5 fights. Malcolm Gordon, 31 years old, 5'7", 70-inch reach, 12-5, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds here. And we have Francisco Figueiredo as a very big favorite opening up, minus 230, currently minus 310. And Malcolm Gordon opening up plus 195, currently plus 260. So lots of money coming in on Figueiredo. And I could not disagree more. I mean, you take a look at Malcolm Gordon, the guy's a BJJ black belt. He's looked horrible in the UFC. I mean, he can't look any worse. He went in there against Amir Albazi, who I believe is a purple belt in BJJ. And by the way, I'm very high on Albazi, But to see Albazi submit him was definitely not a good look. And then he goes out there against Sumadarji and gets starched in that first round. Again, not a very good look. But I will say, if Sumadarji or Amir Albazi fought Francisco Figueiredo, I think they would both destroy him. I think it wouldn't even be close between the two. And then you take a look at Francisco Figueiredo, and I was just not impressed at all. He got his first UFC win against Jerome Rivera. Actually got outlanded by Jerome Rivera. And, Figueiredo was able to get takedowns in that fight to kind of, win the rounds. The first round was kind of close. In that round, Jerome Rivera actually outlanded him 29-16 in total strikes. But Figgy was able to get 2 minutes and 21 seconds of control time, which ultimately did win him the round. But that first round was close. Second round clearly goes to Figueiredo. He's able to get a takedown, control Rivera for about half the round. And then the third round, Rivera pretty much dominated him. He outlanded him 14-8 and significant strikes 34-8 in total strikes. And, Figgy kind of, fought to survive in that third round. He was tired. He was gassed out. And Rivera was really putting it on him. So, yeah, that's not a good look there. I just think this line's crazy. And I was very close to picking Malcolm Gordon. And I went back and watched his fights. I think he's good. I think he's solid. But I watched a good 7 or 8 fights. And I kid you not, every single fight that I watched of Malcolm Gordon, this guy got hurt. Even in his wins, this guy would get hurt. Like, every time somebody touches his chin, I mean, there's just a huge reaction out of him. And although, Figueiredo only has 3 knockouts on his record, I really have serious concerns if Figueiredo lands anything. And I'm not high on Francisco Figueiredo at all. I think he's, very low volume on the feet. He just kind of stands there most of the time. He does throw here and there. When he does land, it's hard. He has no cardio. When he's on top, he does absolutely nothing. So if he does not get a knockout, I think Malcolm Gordon does win this fight. It's just, man, Malcolm Gordon, could have possibly, pound for pound, the worst chin I've ever seen. The chin is just so bad. Every single thing that lands on Malcolm Gordon, there's a reaction. He gets hurt. And I do think Figueiredo is going to touch his chin at some point. But I do have serious concerns if Figueiredo does not knock him out. Malcolm Gordon is live. I think he's live. But, man, the chin, I just can't go there. I can't pick him. I would caution about putting Francisco Figueiredo in your parlay. He is definitely not his brother. I don't think he's really good. I think this is such a low-level fight. Lowest level fight on the card by a mile, in my opinion. But I will take Francisco Figueiredo. I'll take him to win by first round knockout. But yeah, minus 310. I would definitely not get there. But yeah, Malcolm Gordon is so chinny. Chinniest fight I've ever seen in my life, to say the least. All right, next we have a fun fight. We have Miles Johns going against Anderson Dos Santos. We have Johns, who is 27 years old, 5'7", 68-inch reach, 11-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Anderson Dos Santos, 35 years old, 5'5", 70-inch reach, 21-8 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So I do want to get into the stats on this one, as I do think they're pretty important. But we'll take a look at the line. We have Miles Johns opening up minus 145, currently minus 175. And we have Anderson Dos Santos opening up plus 125, currently plus 150. So I guess the big thing I want to note here is, first of all, Miles Johns, 27 years old, arguably in his prime, or at least, close to getting there, training at a very good camp in Fortis MMA, who's been looking good as a camp as a whole. And you have Anderson Dos Santos, who is 35 years old, and that's a huge red flag. A 35-year-old bantamweight, like that jumped off the page to me right away. And plus, he's going to be turning 36 very soon. I think he turns 36 July 24th. So he's about to be 36. A 36-year-old bantamweight is just not a good look whatsoever. But I do want to get to these stats, as I do think they're important. So, Miles Johns does land 3.33 significant strikes per minute with a 48% accuracy, and does absorb 2.42 significant strikes per minute with a 0.91 significant strike differential, a positive significant strike differential. Where you have Anderson Dos Santos, 3-fight sample here, does land 2.66 significant strikes per minute, a 28% striking accuracy, which is terrible. He does absorb 4.8 significant strikes per minute, and with a negative 2.14 significant strike differential, which is really bad, and a 55% striking defense. So now we'll get to the grappling stats, which I do think are somewhat important. Anderson Dos Santos does average about 1.3 takedowns per 15 minutes, only an 18% accuracy though, so he does go for the takedowns, just does not have the best wrestling to get it there, and he does have a 66% takedown defense, whereas Miles Johns averages 1.21 takedowns per 15 minutes, a 30% accuracy, and an 87% takedown defense, a very good takedown defense. So Miles Johns, I believe he was a state champion wrestler in high school. I want to say he went to college for wrestling as well, And I mean, his takedown defense looks good, his wrestling looks good, but Anderson Dos Santos is very, very dangerous. If Dos Santos wins, it's going to be because he got the finish, but it's just so hard to pick Dos Santos. 36 years old, just about. Miles Johns is looking better and better every time we see him. In his last fight against Kevin Natividad, he looked good. He looked very good. Really controlled the range well. His jab looked amazing as well. And I think he's really going to beat up Anderson Dos Santos here on the feet. I think if it's not going well on the feet, which I don't really expect that, I think he could go for takedowns. Dos Santos is somebody that you really got to be careful on the mat with. Dos Santos is very dangerous on the mat. Tons of submissions on his record. 57% finish rate by submission for Dos Santos and 81% finish rate overall. So Johns, if he does take the fight down to the mat, he's going to have to mind his P's and Q's. But I do think he can get takedowns, stay safe on top, all that good stuff. But I don't really think he needs to go there. I think he can just keep this on the feet for 15 minutes and win a 15-minute decision. Or even knock out Dos Santos, who has been knocked out 3 times, has been submitted twice as well. But yeah, I like Johns. I don't think cardio is going to be an issue. He went 5 rounds with Adrian Yanez, who people are really high on in Yanez, and won a decision against him. So that was pretty big there as well. And he's just getting better and better. I think he's improving rapidly. And Dos Santos, I do think he's on his way out or getting really close to be 36 years old. His only win in the UFC over Martin Day, who could be one of the worst UFC fighters in history. Definitely up there in that top 10 for sure. He went 0-4 in the UFC in Martin Day, and even lost on the Contender Series as well. So between the Contender Series and UFC, Martin Day went 0-5. And that was Dos Santos' win. Martin Day went in there and shot a takedown against Dos Santos for no reason whatsoever, and Santos did snatch up his neck. But I do think, Miles Johns, grappling looks good to me. Grappling defense looks good to me as well. Striking looks good. He's young. I like it. I like Miles Johns here. I'm going to take Miles Johns to win by decision. All right, next we have Khalid Taha going against Sergey Morozov. We have Taha, who is 20 years old, 5'5", 69-inch reach, 13-3, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Sergey Morozov, he is 32 years old, 5'6", 67-inch reach, 16-4, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So taking a look at the odds here, we have Khalid Taha opening up -150, currently -170. Sergey Morozov, he is +130 opening up and currently +145. So, yeah, Sergey Morozov, I mean, he got fed to the wolves, to say the least. They brought him in there against Umar Nurmagomedov, and Nurmagomedov submitted him in that second round. I mean, really no shame in that. I mean, Nurmagomedov would destroy Khalid Taha, to say the least. Just a really, really bad matchup. But you go back and watch the tape on Sergey, and he's pretty solid. I think he's really good striking, lots of volume. And I think something key that he does is going for takedowns, because we take a look at Taha in his career. In his 4 UFC fights, he's been taken down in 3 out of 4 fights. The 3 fights that he was taken down, he did lose. He got taken down twice by Bruno Silva. He actually submitted Bruno Silva in that 3rd round, but it got changed to a no contest. I believe Taha did pop for PED, something like that. But still, Barcelos took him down twice. Nad Narimani took him down 6 times. And we take a look at that Narimani fight. He controlled Taha for 10 minutes. Bruno Silva controlled Taha for 7 minutes. And Barcelos controlled Taha for 4 minutes. So he can be taken down. He can be controlled. And I think Morozov is the more well-rounded fighter. I think he can get takedowns, mix it up. On the feet, Taha is very dangerous. But you take a look at some of his stats between his 4 fights, and he has a negative 1.4 significant strike differential. He only has a 43% strike in defense. So tons of red flags for Taha here. And honestly, I think he's knockout or bust. I think Morozov can have success on the feet. I think he can mix it up, get takedowns, get control time as well. And I'm going to say he wins the decision here. So give me Sergey Morozov by decision. Taha's only win is against Boston Salmon, who has been since then cut. Boston Salmon, somebody else that has a very, very bad chin as well. Could he knock out Morozov? I mean, it's possible Morozov has been knocked out before, but I do think that if he does not get knocked out, I think Morozov does win this fight by decision. I think it's a very good spot for him, and as an underdog as well. So give me Sergey Morozov for the win. All right, next we have Amanda Lemos going against Montserrat Ruiz. We have Lemos, who is 34 years old, 5'4", 65-inch reach, 9-1, and 4-1 in the last 5 fights. Montserrat Ruiz, 28 years old, 5 foot, 61-inch reach, 10-1, and 4-1 in the last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here, and Lemos is one of the biggest favorites on the card, opening up -250, currently -500. Ruiz opening up plus 210 currently, plus 375. So Ruiz is the one that upset Cheyenne Bays. And, the UFC, I think they really wanted to build up Cheyenne Bays. They really wanted to get her a win. They bring in Ruiz in that fight. And Ruiz upsets Bays as a very, very big underdog. I want to say, Cheyenne Bays was something crazy. I want to say she was, minus 300. But, yeah, she went out there and she upset Cheyenne Bays. That was the night where both of the Bays family lost, which was kind of cool to see. But, yeah. This is a tough matchup. This is a very, very tough matchup for Montserrat Ruiz here, who she's going to be at a massive striking disadvantage. She's going to be at a massive jiu-jitsu disadvantage as well. And, yeah, by the way, she closed, Bays closed at minus 333 in that fight. My goodness, yeah. So she definitely pulled off the upset here, but I just don't see that happening here, where Lemos, she's well-rounded. She has a ton of power, a ton of volume. She's huge for the division as well. She's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage, a 4-inch height advantage. I think Ruiz is definitely too small. And, Ruiz, she has a path to victory. I mean, it would be, holding Lemos against the cage, tiring her out, possibly taking Lemos down. But even then, Lemos, her ground game's legit. Her striking's legit. She's a finisher. She's dangerous. 89% finish rate for Amanda Lemos. And although Ruiz has never been finished, I do think Lemos finishes her here. I think Lemos has been fighting the much better competition by a mile, and it's not even close whatsoever. And I think Lemos is just better, anywhere the fight goes, on the mat, on the feet, and at range, it's going to be Lemos all day, and it's going to be, a huge, huge gap in skill on the feet. I mean, Ruiz, small reach, not much volume, hittable. I think Lemos is going to have an absolute field day. But yeah, if Ruiz can close the distance, get on the inside, I think she could have some success, but man, Lemos at range is going to absolutely destroy her. And if Lemos can get takedowns, even off her back, I think she'll have success. So give me Lemos here to get the win. I just think she's the much better fighter, and really it's not even close. So give me Amanda Lemos to get it done. I'm going to say by knockout. All right, next we have Daniel Rodriguez going against Preston Parsons. We have Rodriguez, who is 34 years old, 6'1", 74-inch reach, 14-2, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Preston Parsons, 25 years old, 5'11", 72-inch reach, 9-2, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So Preston coming in on short notice. And I think D-Rod was supposed to fight. I forget who he was supposed to fight, but he was supposed to fight somebody. It would have been a good fight. But now he's fighting Preston Parsons, stepping in on short notice. So glad we get to see D-Rod on the card here. But D-Rod opened up minus 240, currently minus 265. Parsons opening up plus 205, currently plus 225. And yeah, watch tape on Parsons. I think the guy's really good. I think there's a ton of upside. Parsons only 25 years old. I really like his game. He kind of has the same style as D-Rod. He has a ton of volume. He has a lot of cardio, great cardio. He has good wrestling, good BJJ as well. But stepping in on short notice against a guy in Daniel Rodriguez is just such a tough ask. And I think Daniel Rodriguez is very good. I really like the game of Daniel Rodriguez. He's training at a 10th Planet, has a 10th Planet BJJ purple belt, I believe. Very good grappler, very underrated grappler. He's able to submit Tim Means. Has quite a few submissions on his record as well. He's dangerous, 79% finish rate in Daniel Rodriguez. But you take a look at Preston Parsons, 100% finish rate, all by submission. And I don't know, I just don't see him submitting Daniel Rodriguez. Honestly, from the tape, I think D-Rod's a better grappler. I've seen Parsons reverse. I've seen him swept. I've seen him submitted before. And D-Rod, his grappling is very, very good. D-Rod in 16 fights has never been submitted. And if you're telling me Parsons, his only win has been by a submission, it's just such a tough ask to go out there and submit a 10th Planet BJJ purple belt or maybe a brown belt. And D-Rod, regardless, his grappling is very good. His takedown defense is very good. I think he can even get takedowns. I've seen Preston Parsons take down multiple times, but I think D-Rod's going to want to keep this on the feet. D-Rod has a ton of volume, a ton of power, lots of pace as well. I think this fight's going to be very fun. I think this fight's going to be a war. But yeah, I got to go with D-Rod here, especially on short notice. Maybe Parsons does slow down as the fight goes on because there's going to be a crazy pace set in this fight. Both guys push a crazy pace, so it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good fight, but I do like D-Rod to win, and I'll take him to win by second round knockout. And by the way, D-Rod should be undefeated. He's 14-2. Went back and watched his losses. He should be 16-0, especially the Dalby fight. Like the Dalby fight, I still to this day don't know how the judges scored it for Dalby. I scored it 30-27 for Rodriguez. One of the judges scored it 30-27 for Dalby. Once I heard the 30-27, I thought for sure that it was D-Rod's fight. But man, still to this day, I've watched that fight, 3 times in the past couple of weeks, and still, I have no clue how the judges scored it for Dalby. So yeah, arguably, Dan Rodriguez very well could be undefeated in the UFC and even undefeated in general. So I do like this guy. I think he's really good. 34 years old, but still, I do like D-Rod here in this fight against Preston Parsons, the newcomer. All right, next we have Gabriel Benitez going against Billy Quarantillo. Very good fight here. Honestly, this is probably my pick for fight of the night. Should be a good one. All Billy Quarantillo fights are very exciting. A lot of Gabriel Benitez fights are very exciting as well. So I think it's going to be a war. I think it's going to be a great fight, and I cannot wait to watch it. But Gabriel Benitez, he is 33 years old, 5'8", 71-inch reach, 22-8, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Billy Quarantillo, 32 years old, 5'10", 70-inch reach, 15-3, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So I do want to get into some of the stats here. Before we do, take a look at the odds. Gabriel Benitez opened up plus 115 for some reason. The line immediately went to minus 220, and now he's currently at minus 175. And then we have Billy Quarantillo, who opened up at minus 135, immediately jumped to plus 170 and currently at plus 150. So, yeah, I think Billy Quarantillo is going to be a very popular dog this week, especially considering there aren't really many dogs on this card. And Billy Quarantillo is somebody that you can never count out. People really like this guy. I mean, Billy Quarantillo, his main attribute is that toughness, is that cardio, is that will. And people really like guys like that. People really do like these tough guys. Like even Montano, the guy that fought O'Malley. People really like that guy. I think he gained like 30, 40,000 followers on Twitter since that fight. People like tough guys, and that's what Billy Quarantillo is. He's very tough. But I do want to get to these stats, so they're very interesting here. So Gabriel Benitez does land 4.38 significant strikes per minute with a 38% accuracy. Does absorb 3.26 significant strikes per minute with a positive 1.12 significant strike differential. As for Billy Quarantillo, very, very high volume. Both guys are, but Billy Quarantillo especially, very high volume. Lands 7.04 significant strikes per minute, 64% accuracy, does absorb 4.37 with a positive 2.67 significant strike differential. So getting to the striking defense, Gabriel Benitez has a 70% striking defense, which I looked it up, and I believe that's the 3rd best striking defense in the UFC behind Nasrat Haqparast and Dominic Cruz. So very impressive. Obviously, the best striking defense in the division in Gabriel Benitez. And then you have Billy Quarantillo on the flip side, a 42% striking defense. That is not great at all. He is very hittable. He does rely on his toughness. He does rely on his chin, which he does have both of those. But I don't know if you really want to be hittable against a guy that can hit as hard as Benitez. The guy kicks hard as well. Great body kicks, great leg kicks. I don't know if you want to be hittable against a guy like Benitez in this fight. So getting to the grappling stats, and this is where it gets kind of interesting. Gabriel Benitez does average only 0.17 takedowns per 15 minutes. 50% takedown accuracy, does have a 56% takedown defense. Billy Quarantillo does average 1.28 takedowns per 15 minutes, a 31% takedown accuracy, and a 57% takedown defense himself. But you take a look at Gabriel Benitez and that takedown defense, and he's only been taken down more than once in 2 fights. One was against Clay Collard, one was against Enrique Barzola, where Barzola took him down 9 times. But if you go back and watch that fight, he did get taken down 9 times, but he popped back up pretty much every time. And on his back, like he's underrated. I think his BJJ is very underrated. I think everybody thinks of him as a striker, but you take a look at it, and Benitez has finished the majority of his fights by submission. Benitez has a 48% submission rate. That means he's finished about half of his wins by submission. He's a brown belt in BJJ as far as I'm concerned. Great grappler. And on his back in that Barzola fight, he was very active, threw up submissions, and he has such a great scrambling ability. So even if Billy Quarantillo does get him down, I really don't think he's going to have any success at all holding down Benitez. And Billy Quarantillo is somebody that has been reversed multiple times thus far in the UFC. Spike Harlow was able to reverse him a couple times as well. And I just don't see Billy Quarantillo having success on the mat. And although I do think he can get takedowns, I really don't see him holding down Benitez at all. So I think this fight's going to primarily play out striking. At that point, I got to favor Benitez. Billy Quarantillo is going to be coming forward. He's going to be, getting hit quite a bit. That 42% striking defense compared to, like I mentioned, the best striking defense in the division of Benitez and 70%. And Benitez, kicks very hard. He hits very hard. I think he's going to really beat up Quarantillo. But, how Quarantillo wins a lot of these fights he gets beat up early. He gets beat up in the first round, in the second round, and then his opponents just can't keep up with the pace of Billy Quarantillo, and that's kind of his thing. He takes punishment. He takes one to give five. And that's kind of what he does, and that's why people like him, including me. I'm a big Billy Quarantillo guy, but I don't know if you want to be hittable against Gabriel Benitez. And you take a look at Billy Quarantillo's career. Camelo Kirk on the Contender Series, he was able to knock him out in that third round. Camelo Kirk gassed bad after that first round. Then he beats Jacob Kilburn in an absolute domination. Jacob Kilburn, I believe, since then been cut in the UFC. I think Kilburn went 0-3 in the UFC. And then he beat Spike Carlisle, where Spike Carlisle is a notorious gasser. He gassed out in that fight. Billy Quarantillo was able to win a very, very close fight. That fight was very close. I personally scored it for Carlisle, but it could have went either way. And then he beats Kyle Nelson, who again is a notorious gasser. And Billy Quarantillo is able to take the punishment in that first round and a half. And Kyle Nelson was not able to knock him out. And Kyle Nelson is somebody that went 1-3 in the UFC as well. So, the same thing can be said for Benitez. Benitez does not have, the best wins in the world. Justin James, Humberto Bandenet, Jason Knight, Sam Cecilia, Clay Collard. But look at his losses. Andre Fili, Enrique Barzola, Sadiq Youssef, Omar Morales. So I do think Benitez has fought the much better competition. It should be a fun fight. One thing we got to mention is Benitez was supposed to fight, I believe it was Jonathan Pierce, a couple months ago. And he missed weight. The fight ultimately was off. So I kind of want to see the weigh-ins before I, put any action on this fight. But yeah, Benitez looks bad. Maybe Billy Quarantillo is worth a shot because Billy Quarantillo is going to push a crazy pace. Maybe Benitez does slow down if he did have a tough weight cut. But if Benitez does look to be, good on the scales, if he made weight, everything's good. I really like Benitez in this fight. I do think he's going to put a lot of damage on Billy Quarantillo. And I do think that maybe Billy does win that third round. I just think, by then the damage is going to add up. And maybe even Benitez gets a knockout. Billy Quarantillo has been knocked out before. But I'm going to say Benitez by decision here. I'm going to say he really puts it on Quarantillo. I think he's going to land the harder shots. Maybe Billy outlands him in volume, but I think he's going to really, sway the judges with how hard he's going to hit Billy. And just seeing how hittable Billy is, it's just not a good look against somebody in Gabriel Benitez. So give me Gabriel Benitez by decision. Oh my goodness, not this guy. Rodolfo Vieira, going against Dustin Stoltzfus. Yeah, Rodolfo Vieira, crazy upset loss in his last fight against Fluffy Hernandez. I want to say he closed around like minus 450, closer to like the minus 500 range against Fluffy Hernandez. And he was looking, good in that fight. It's just, man, he gassed out so early. And we'll talk about that fight more, but before we do, he is 31 years old, 6 foot, 73-inch reach. He's 7-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. And one last loss coming to Fluffy Hernandez. Dustin Stoltzfus, 29 years old, 6 foot, 75-inch reach, 13-2, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. That last loss coming to Kyle Daukaus. So yeah, Rodolfo Vieira, that Fluffy Hernandez fight, it still gives me nightmares, man. He was looking so good. In that fight, he was able to take down Fluffy Hernandez a couple times, took him down 4 times, got into some very dominant positions, almost submitted him multiple times, but Anthony Hernandez was able to survive, get into the second round. And I went back and watched that fight, and I forget who was commentating, but they were like, man, I have never in my life seen somebody gas out so bad like Rodolfo Vieira is right now. And if you go back and watch that fight, man, he was so tired. His hands were down. He was getting hit hard by Anthony Hernandez. The guy has a chin on him because he took some really hard shots. I remember he took like a flush head kick from Hernandez, but Hernandez submitted Rodolfo Vieira, which Hernandez was like plus 2,500, plus 3,000 to win by submission in that fight. Like that was like the least likely outcome by a mile in that fight, and it happened because Rodolfo Vieira does not have a gas tank. So it's very hard to back this guy. You take a look at the line, and he opened up as a minus 210 favorite, currently minus 220. Stoltzfus opened up plus 180, plus 185 currently. I just can't bet on Vieira ever. The guy's gas tank is just so bad. But I will say this. He was able to beat Oscar Pajota in that second round, late second round against Oscar Pajota. So he can go into the later rounds, but man, I don't know if something was up with him. I don't know if it was a bad weight cut, if he was sick. I don't know how he gassed out so bad. So you got to think he is working on that a little bit. But regardless, in general, the guy's gas tank is very bad. Looks like he does cut a lot of weight. The guy is jacked up. but he's good. He's a very good fighter. He's a very good wrestler. His BJJ is top notch, but the only problem is he's very good for only 5-6 minutes, if that. And that's the problem here. But you take a look at Stoltzfus, and originally, first look, I thought I'd be picking Stoltzfus here, maybe even betting Stoltzfus. First look, I do think there's a lot of recency bias in this fight, including on my part, because man, do I not like Rodolfo Vieira. But you kind of take a look at Stoltzfus, and his takedown defense is terrible. What he likes to do is he's a ground guy himself. Of course, nowhere near the level of a Rodolfo Vieira, but on his back, he's comfortable to be on his back. He does throw up submissions, but none of that's going to work against Vieira, at least early. And like I said, he can be taken down easily. Rivera has very good wrestling for as long as his cardio does last. So I think Vieira is going to get a lot of opportunities to get a finish here. Of course, if he doesn't get a finish in that first round, probably hit the live betting for Dustin Stoltzfus there. But I'm going to say Rivera does get him down and does get him out of there. Just seeing Stoltzfus getting taken down in a ton of fights, him being comfortable off his back is not going to be good in this fight whatsoever. Kyle Daukaus was able to get him down a couple times. I think Vieira is going to 2 as well. And I'm going to say Rodolfo Vieira does win by submission, but there's no way I'm touching that line because I think for Vieira to win, he's going to have to get a early finish. And I don't know, I think he does, but if he does not, it could get very sketchy, very, very fast. But I'll take Rodolfo Vieira to win by first round sub. All right, next we have Mateusz Gamrot going against Jeremy Stephens. We have Gamrot, who is 30 years old, 5'10", 70.5-inch reach, 18-1, and 4-1 his last 5 fights. Jeremy Stephens, 35 years old, 5'9", 71-inch reach, 28-18, and 1-4 in his last 5 fights, including a no contest with an eye poke against Yair Rodriguez. But yeah, Jeremy Stephens has not won in a very, very, very long time. It's been like 6 fights since Jeremy Stephens has won. I'll give you the exact date. The last time Jeremy Stephens has won was in 2018 of February. So early 2018 against Josh Emmett, that brutal knockout against Josh Emmett. Prior to that, he was on a 3-fight winning streak against Doo Ho Choi, Gilbert Melendez, and Josh Emmett, but went on like a 4-fight skid, including that no contest there. And Jeremy Stephens, he is getting up there in age, going up a weight class as well, which is something important to note. So the thing about Jeremy Stephens is you got to watch out for that power. Jeremy Stephens is somebody that has a ton of power. I think he has like 18 knockdowns in the UFC, which is crazy. So tons of power from Stephens, but at this point of his career, I got to go with Gamrot. Gamrot is somebody who very well-rounded. I like this guy a lot. He's great striker, tons of volume, and he can mix in the takedowns as well. Thus far in his 2 UFC fights, the guy has 7 takedowns. Was able to take down Guram Kudulaadze 5 times and Scott Holtzman 2 times. And by the way, link back and watch that Guram fight. Man, I really thought that Gamrot won the first round and the third round. Second round, I gave to Kudulaadze, which was a very close round, by the way. And that was the fight where Guram Kudulaadze, in his post-fight speech, said that Gamrot won the fight. He said it was his fight, and yeah, I definitely agree with him. So honestly, I think Gamrot could very well be undefeated here. But yeah, the guy's good. He's well-rounded. I think he can mix in the takedowns, great grappling, great wrestling, more volume. I think he's going to beat Stephens pretty anywhere the fight goes. The only thing that kind of concerns me is going to be the power of Stephens. But we do see Gamrot as a big favorite, opening up -170, currently -230. And then we have Stephens opening up +145, currently +195, and rightfully so. Could Stephens win? Potentially, but will his power translate up to this weight class? Gamrot never been knocked out. He was hurt in that Guram fight, but he was able to recover right away. I'm going to take Gamrot here. Take Gamrot to win by decision. But yeah, I really do like Gamrot. I'm high on the guy. He's in his prime. Should be, probably undefeated. But I do think he does move up the rankings. I think this guy has a lot of upside for sure. So give me Mateusz Gamrot to win by decision. All right. My goodness, I cannot believe it. Miesha Tate is back. She is now 34 years old, and she is 5'6", 66.5-inch reach, 18-7, and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Marion Reneau, 44 years old. My goodness, 5'6", 6-8-inch reach, 9-7, and 1-4 in her last 5 fights. So taking a look at the odds here, and we have Miesha Tate as the favorite, opening up as a +115 dog, currently -143, And then we have Reneau opening up as a plus or minus 135 favorite, currently plus 123. So, yeah, I guess the big things to point out, Miesha Tate has not fought in 4 years in 7 months. She retired. I believe she had a kid as well. 4 years and 7 months, huge layoff. Last fight lost a decision win, or a decision loss to Raquel Pennington. Prior to that, did lose to Amanda Nunes. So her last win was actually 5 years and 4 months ago against Holly Holm, the comeback win in that 5th round. So yeah, I mean, this fight is so tough to call because there are just red flags after red flags after red flags, and a lot of unknowns. Like, I mean, if Miesha Tate, comes in and she looks anything like she did, say, 5-6 years ago, I think she wins this fight. I think she wins this fight handily. But, I mean, she has not fought in so long. The pregnancy, the layoff, the cage rust, all that good stuff. I don't know. I mean, Reneau, although she is 44 years old, which, by the way, I believe she's the oldest fighter on the roster. I think she's either number 1 or number 2. She's older than, Alexia Oleinik, older than Damian Maia, 44 years old. I believe this is her retirement fight as well. Man, what a crapshoot of a fight to predict. But I'm going to go with Tate just based on the fact that, hey, if she shows up like anywhere near how she was, back in the day, I think she makes it look easy. Like, if this fight was, 5-6 years ago, I would be hammering Miesha Tate at this line. It's just so many red flags. But I guess some things to point out is Reneau has a 50% takedown defense. And what is Miesha Tate going to want to do? She's going to want to get this down to the mat. Miesha Tate has very good wrestling, really good grappling as well. But you take a look at Reneau, and she has been taken down in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 10 fights. Reneau has been taken down in 10 out of her 12 fights in the UFC. 10 fights in a row she's been taken down. So I really do think Miesha Tate could take her down, control her. Don't know if she submits Reneau, but it's a tough fight, man. I mean, do you go with the 44-year-old Reneau, or do you go with the extremely long layoff and Miesha Tate? I'll go with Tate, but it's very hard to be confident. With a layoff that long, 4 years and 7 months, it's very, very hard to be confident in Miesha Tate here. But I will pick her to win, as I do think she has a really good path to victory, taking down Reneau, controlling her, and winning the fight by a decision. My goodness. Tough fight to predict, though. All right, next we have the main event. Before we get into it, I do want to remind you guys that I'm going live Friday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time as always, and then Saturday 1 hour prior to when the prelims start. Saturday there, if you guys are still with me, hit the like. Would much, much appreciate it. But now going to be breaking down the main event, which, by the way, me and Uncle Weezy did a main event deep dive on my channel on Monday. If you guys have not seen that, go check it out. We go much more into detail. We could talk about every dynamic of the fight. In this breakdown here, I'll kind of sum it up a little bit. Makhachev, he is 29 years old, 5'10", 70.5-inch reach, 19-1, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Thiago Moises, 26 years old, 5'9", 70.5-inch reach, 15-4, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds here, and Makhachev is the biggest favorite on the card, right in front of Amanda Lemos. Makhachev opened up minus 500, currently minus 700. And Moises opened up plus 375, currently plus 450. And yeah, I mean, do I think the odds are somewhat wide? I guess, but man, it's really hard to argue a case for Thiago Moises here. I do want to get into some stats. So, Makhachev does land 2 significant strikes per minute with a 56% striking accuracy. And listen to this, he absorbs 0.77. And that's not in like a 2-fight sample, a 3-fight sample, a 4-fight sample. That's in like a 10-fight sample for Islam Makhachev. 0.77 significant strikes absorbed for a positive 1.23 significant strike differential. This guy is dominant when it comes to the striking stats. A 70% striking defense. As far as Thiago Moises, he does land 2.85 significant strikes per minute with a 37% striking accuracy. Does absorb 3.88. with a negative significant strike differential of 1.03 and a 60% striking defense. I will say this. I do think Moises is very young, training at a very good camp. I do see, tons of improvements. Every single time he fights, there's a ton of improvements from the guy. I think his striking is getting a lot better. Nobody expected him to go out there against, Hernandez or Who was it? Yeah, Hernandez, right? Yeah, Hernandez, and beat him in a 15-minute fight that primarily played out striking the whole time. Yeah, Alexander Hernandez, he outstruck him 53-50. Nobody expected that. I did pick Moises in that fight, but I expected him to go for takedowns. But that's not what he did. He outstruck Alexander Hernandez, which completely shocked me there. But, as far as this fight goes, I think Moises is just at so many disadvantages here. We'll take a look at the grappling stats, where another aspect where Makhachev is very dominant. It does average 3.5 takedowns per 15 minutes with a 68% takedown accuracy, which is crazy considering the amount of takedowns he does attempt. I believe he attempts 29 takedowns. He's attempted 29 takedowns in the UFC, and I believe he's gotten 20 of them. So just dominant. 93% takedown defense for Makhachev as well. As far as Moises does land 1 takedown per 15 minutes, 33% accuracy, and a 63% takedown defense. Just a lot going against him. On the feet, I think Moises could have some success. I think Moises' striking is coming along, but it just won't be on the feet for long. Makhachev's going to go for takedowns, and he's going to get them. Some things I do want to point out. Moises has been taken down. He got taken down 2 times by Kurt Holloway. He got taken down 4 times by Beneil Dariush. And I kind of think how that, the Dariush fight played out. It's kind of how this one's going to play out, where Beneil Dariush took him down 4 times. Moises was able to really do nothing in that fight. And Beneil Dariush had 13 minutes and 32 seconds of control time. Out of a 15-minute fight, 13 minutes and 32 seconds. That's unheard of. I kind of think Makhachev is going to do the same thing here. Makhachev, he's just got to, mind his P's and Q's. Moises very good on the ground. Legit BJJ black belt, but, Makhachev has been put in some bad spots before. Against Nick Lentz, was put in some really bad spots, was able to get out of him. Against Chris Wade, he was put in some really bad spots, able to get out of him. Chris Wade even got a couple reversals in that fight. But those fights were in, 5 years ago, so I do think Makhachev's improved since then, and I guess it was really good to see Makhachev get out of those bad positions, especially for this fight, and just hard to pick Moises here. I get why the line is this wide. Could it be a little bit too wide? Probably, but I do think Makhachev is able to get it down to the mat early and often, kind of smother Moises, rack up a ton of control time and win a decision here or a late finish. I guess something to note is Moises has been 5 rounds before. I went back and watched that fight the other day. I believe he got 50-45 on all 3 judges' scorecards. But this is going to be Makhachev's first 5-round fight. He's never seen a 4th round ever, so this is going to be the first time more than likely, so that's something to note. But I do have Makhachev to win here. I'm going to take him to win by, I'll say 5th round finish. I think it could either be a submission or a knockout, TKO. I think Moises is going to really, crack under the pressure, the pace of Makhachev. We've seen Moises slow down in multiple fights. And, with the pace and pressure that Makhachev is going to bring, I do think Moises is going to slow down. I think Makhachev is going to get him out of there late in the fight. So, yeah, that's about it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys can leave a like on your way out, that'd be much, much appreciated. Let's get those likes up. Also, subscribe if you have not yet. If you do want some extra content, you can check out the Patreon. I do have 2 bets posted. Looking at a couple more spots for this card. So, yeah, that's about all I got, guys. See you guys Friday for the live stream. And good luck with your bets for UFC Vegas 31. See you guys.